So that's a really good time to catch up. But as far as Christmas, I'm really not too phased about it. But it's because, like you say, in creation, this is our time where it's almost forced upon us to take that time off. It's almost forced upon us that we have to celebrate. I refuse to celebrate that. Anyway, I live within my belief system of, well, you know, we've all got time off work, well, let's catch up type thing, you know. But it's not catch up because it's Christmas, because actually I don't even know what Christmas is. I've never known what Christmas is. No one's explained it to me, and when I looked into it, it doesn't kind of stack up. So I'm happy that my family have come to visit me, but as far as Christmas, I don't know what that is, if that makes sense. I've been saying it for a long time now.
Kelsey found out what Christmas is this year.
Shamans would eat all the mushrooms, and they would go on this experience of flying while having ingested psychedelic mushrooms, and their reindeer were flying. And that was the idea of Christmas. And Santa Claus is the shaman, basically.
Yeah, so we have the real story here.
So, hi, Kelsey.
Yes, we don't have to celebrate it. There's the story.
Yeah, for me, it's a time to catch up with family, but I don't know what Christmas is. But I was actually this morning, I got up and I was watching something that came up to me, and it was the Ohopi tribe, a tribe of the indigenous Indians of America. And it was really, really interesting to me how they were talking about the earth and the natural environment, and how that relates to it. Actually talked about how they were decimated and trying to through they what they call the white man. We know who's behind that. And they had never actually signed a treaty or a document as such with the white people. So they call themselves sovereign people, you know. I found it really, really interesting, because a lot of the indigenous people around the world have signed documents with the white people or governments or authorities or whoever they may be. However, these Ohopi people have never signed documents to give their sovereignty away, you know. And I found that really, really interesting. So they call themselves a sovereign people. Well, you know, we can go back to all the Aboriginals, which is how they mentioned it. All the Aboriginals, a lot of them have signed themselves away, thinking that was the best interest of who they were. And these Ohopi people never actually did that, even though they were put in chains of 6 people. And so if one wanted to, you know, go to relieve themselves for whatever reason, the other 5 had to go with them. So they were like, their existence as just a human being, as a person herself, they tried to demoralize them. But I was watching that today, and I just thought, well, that's really amazing, because with all these fires and things and the destruction that's going on here in Australia and New Zealand, by the way, we have, as Indigenous people, I say we because I'm an Indigenous person of the land, especially in New Zealand, we have actually signed our sovereignty away as an agreement, you know. And when I listened to them, and they were standing as people on their own, just Indigenous people on the land with their sovereignty, they had never signed their sovereignty away. They rather took themselves into chains, so to speak, as a lesser people, as they were portrayed, to be a sovereign people. And they are still, most of them are still that today. I thought that was really, really quite incredible. That's pretty deep, eh?
Yeah, I think there was actually a tribe somewhere in Taranaki that didn't do it as well. Yeah, something down there. But yeah, I mean, realistically, they're just old agreements. It's like there's like a memory in the causal, or like the DNA or something within the person that's raised in the environment where they didn't agree to that, and that's a cool environment to be in. Sure, I think
Yeah,
that's what you're alluding to, yeah. But at the same time, like now, we decide. So, everybody that's had all these different, it's come from these modern westernized civilization, with the people that have grown up there, they have to wake up to how it is. They're the people who educated the modern world, the people that enslaved all these indigenous peoples. So, we have to wake up to like this whole idea of rights and everything that we've been portrayed that we need. We don't need that stuff. We just need to
no.
recognize our real beings and become more aware of the natural environment that supports us.
Well, they even talked about the education system and how, like back in their day with the Hopi people, how the education system was actually illegal. And it really, really, like, as people like us, we study this stuff, but we're going back, like the Hopi were like, I think, like Mexican, I think they were around that area. And that the education system, they even knew back then that the white people, they called them the white people, that the education system was not even stacked up to what the Hopi people were saying as to their sovereign rights, which was really, really interesting because I had this dream last night or this morning. And these people, the dream was like, these people were coming into my shop, but I was taking time off. I was having my time out, which is what I've decided to do this year. Just take some time out and just close everything down. And I just thought, I don't care about Christmas. I don't care about anything like that. I care more about my own health and my well-being. So that's what I've done. And I dreamt that these people were like banging on my doors, like, open up. They wanted to come into my shop. And anyway, I go to the door and I go, no, I'm actually closed. This is in my dream. I was like, no, I'm actually closed and I'm not going to open the shop. And then I get up this morning, it's about 6 o'clock in the morning, and for some reason I actually was looking for something else, but this came up and I'm like, wow, I'll click onto that and I'll listen to it. And to me, it gave me kind of like a parallel, that they had not given their sovereignty. So it's like my choice that I'm choosing that I'm not going to open just to pressure, I'm not going to open to pressure just because people are banging on my doors. I'm going to get into my shop. I'm going to take this time out because this is my time. And this is what was given to me this morning. And I felt really like, wow, this is like a parallel. I don't know. It was a feeling that I got. It was like a parallel. I wasn't opening my shop and people were banging on the shop door to come in. And I said, no, this is my time out, I'm not going to do this. And then when I read this is exactly what they were doing. And they were saying, no, we're not going to sign your documents. We're not going to do any of this stuff. And it really blew me away. And I thought, oh my goodness, I just can't wait for this call today. To me, there was a parallel there, It was a different time, space, reality, but it was a parallel into kind of what I was doing somehow. Because I have kind of lost my dreams over the last 4 months, and it was very, very prominent that they were not going to come into my space, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, there have been times where I've started working jobs again and stopped remembering the real side so easy. Yeah. Because you wake up and your thoughts are straight to, just getting up and what you got to do to get to work, and you lose your focus of what you were doing on the real side pretty easily.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's just a matter of focus too. So you can just train yourself either way, but yeah, it's certainly easier one way. hmm So can you give us an update about the fires, Olga or Debbie? We can't hear you. You're on mute. So
Am I?
Debbie's on mute.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Well,
no, you're fine, Olga. Yeah.
I've only just been watching the Crow House this morning because he put out another video on the 26th of December. So obviously it's just come through today, which I found to be really interesting as people are saying to this guy, some of the facts aren't quite right. The interesting thing about what they're saying is that he's actually been sent videos of people who are not into conspiracy theories, and they don't even really care about what other people are saying, but they're saying independently that these fires are not natural, especially the spot fires. I was like, where are they coming from? And like, I was watching a video the other day, and it was pretty horrendous. And this fire had encroached on the backyard of a home. And I tell you what, man, you could hear the anxiety in her voice. And it was kind of like, I guess I'd say like a half-acre section. And it started to creep upon their backyard. And then it hit the shed. And the guy's out there with a hose, which seemed really, really futile. And she's going, come on, get in the car. Come on, we've got to go. And then spot fires just started happening. And that was like the first real footage I saw on spot fires. And they were just like just coming from kind of out of the ground. They weren't it wasn't even an ember from the fire that was encroaching on them. It was just a spot fire just came up from nowhere. And that was really, really interesting. And of course, they obviously lost their home. But what I was watching with the Crow House was that there's a guy in New Zealand who's actually he's bringing out information that is really, really interesting about aluminum oxide. I don't know if you've heard of it. And he's showing us how it works. And with the aluminum oxide, he's dousing it in water. So he's got like a little kind of bowl. And he fills it up with water, and then he dries it out. And then he shows how it works even after the water has been on it. So obviously the rains come. But nothing can actually nullify the effects of this aluminum oxide. And he's showing it after it's been doused in water and dried out, and it had the same color as the fires. And people are writing into him and saying, there's no way, because they're blaming children, and there's no way a child could have these fires are too big even for a child, because they're blaming the children around here creating the fires, and they're saying, children are in the bush and they're lighting these fires. There's no way that even a child with no experience, when you think about it, could actually ignite these fires. And they're looking at vineyards, and these vineyards are hectares of vineyards, if you could imagine, and all these vineyards are green. And that's what got me in the first instance, that these fires are burning trees that are green. And if you've ever chop down a tree and try to burn it for that winter, it won't burn. It's too wet. It's too green, And this is what they're looking at, which is And so he's got a few followers now, but in the news, they're actually saying, there's so many people following these conspiracy theories about this, that, and the other. And it's showing that there's no way you can actually burn a green tree. If you've ever tried to light a fire, and I'm pretty well much the fire starter. I'm very good at starting fires because I used to camp and I used to go out and, it didn't matter how windy it was, and I'm talking about going back in the 80s, I could light a fire and keep it under control so that we could have a meal, These fires are beyond anything green, and it's like an inch of a blade of grass, and these fires are taken off through the scrub, if you like, and these fires are igniting. Well, you get a green blade of grass, it ain't going to burn. There's no way a green blade of grass is going to burn. You can have an acre of green grass, and it's just not going to burn, And this is where what they call the conspiracy theory is coming in, because it's just, we all know you cannot burn a green tree. However, the other night, my girlfriend rang me on Messenger from New Zealand, and I said to her, well, how's the weather over there? How's the weather going? And she says, oh, well, you wouldn't believe it. We're getting tornadoes and cyclones like you wouldn't believe. And I said, what do you mean? And she says, well, these tornadoes are ripping trees out of the ground. Now, if you knew where I come from, which is a place called Te Atatu, which is 10 minutes out of Auckland City, but on the other side of the harbour. And I said, where's this happening? She goes, from Henderson to Te Atatu South and Te Atatu North. She says, trees are being ripped up out of the ground, Olga. She says, you couldn't imagine what's going on here. She says, these trees are rotten from the middle. And I said, what do you mean? And this is 2:00 in the morning for her. I have some colourful friends. And she says, look, I'm sitting on my laptop. I'm in the park because the Wi-Fi is free, is what she says to me. And she starts showing me around an area where I know. And she says, look at these trees around there, Olga. They've just been ripped up from all the cyclones and all the hurricanes. She says, look at this, Olga. She says, the trees are rotten from the inside. And I said, well, that's really interesting.